and
All
do it.
right, let's roll it.
Go. Oh, look at Nick Lamb running the show. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Welcome back to another episode, everybody. My name's Emery Wolf, and joining me is
Nick Lamb.
And this is Just Two Camera Guys, a show where we're going to talk all things camera. Bit of a mailbag today. We're going to rip through a bunch of different things that we see. And by mailbag, it's things that I send to myself to read and eventually send Nick, and never send Nick. So we'll get his reaction to.
So many emails come in. The way we get so many emails, the way it works is Emery has to take half of them. I take the other half. And so whoever, 50-50 as to who's going to read the email, just because we get so many.
And we only deal with like 2% of them.
Yeah. So if we don't get to your question, we're sorry.
Yeah. First few topic things I kind of want to talk with you, Nick, about B&H Photo put out their top cinema cameras for 2024. Any guesses as to what's topping the charts for them?
I'm just going to guess brand for now and then narrow it down after that. I'm going to go Sony. Sony's topping the charts.
Interesting. If you want to share my screen there, that's
share.
And this is the article right here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the C400 from Canon.
The C400. Wow. Is it because we did 2 full episodes on it?
It was probably because of us, for sure. Like B&H, I'm pretty sure big fans. Check us out. They just rely on us for everything. And then the C80 after that.
Wow.
Black Magic, of course, is in there. And there's the Sony. Again, these are for cinema cameras. And honestly, to be fair too, I think like each thing sort of works into like price ranges, right? Obviously with red in here, that's like if you would rather buy a camera than a house. So
yeah.
You take what you want, and then the Super 8.
You know what's funny is that red originally was they originally were the cheap cameras on the scene. And although they're expensive, we do kind of have them to thank for all of these cheaper cinema cameras because they were the first ones to do it.
Yeah. So. And to define cheap, you mean by like when they're going up against like Arri Alexas and like the big expensive film cameras. So they were cheaper.
Yeah. So they were like a quarter of the price. They were going up against Alexa, Panavision, and all those guys. So
cool. Next one. That's the same one. I guess I botched the next one. They had like the top mirrorless cameras too somewhere.
Wow, the C400. I'm just surprised because I didn't know if people were going to be jumping on top of that one already, or kind of wait and give mirrorless a chance to come down in price for the lenses. But
I think like part of that too, though, is just like that it is the new thing, right?
Yeah.
So this was the other one I was trying to get to, the top mirrorless cameras for the year. Any guesses? I haven't actually looked at this either.
Oh, top mirrorless cameras of the year. You know what? So I went against, I was going with a brand. It's not that I dislike Sony. It's just I prefer Canon to Sony. So I for some reason, I thought it was going to bug me that the top camera was a Sony and that's what you were doing.
I was just trolling you.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to say that this is one of the underdogs. So last year, Nikon kind of stole all of the top spots for cameras. So this year, I'm going to guess it's something weird like Fuji or Fujinon or one of those kind of names.
Interesting you bring up Fuji. I will show you some stuff on that later. Let's scroll down. Number 10. The Sony ZV. This is that blogger camera.
Yeah. Have you? So side note, I've actually owned that camera for about 6 months.
Yeah.
And the image on it is shocking, like shockingly good for a fixed lens. And the stills you could take with it, the vlog stuff you could do with it. I actually bought it because Ruth likes to vlog, but it was just too complicated. So she went from liking to shoot to just not shooting at all because it was too complicated versus the DJI action camera.
Yeah. Number 9 on the list, the Leica Q3, which I just brought up. Another one of those cameras where if you would rather have a camera than a house, go ahead.
Yeah.
The Panasonic Lumix GH7.
The Leica camera to me is, if it's a cool camera to use, but I just don't see the value in it. Like if you got tons of money and you need something that's cool, I go for it. But me personally, I can't see myself ever buying that.
The greatest financial advice ever given, folks. If it is cool, go ahead. If you just need something cool, do it.
Well, if you've got a lot, that's the camera that's like, you got a lot of money and you're going on a trip to Spain or whatever, and you want to get that. The only way that I would ever buy that camera is I would buy it used. I'd have a fixed time in mind and then I'd sell it. But yeah, not for me.
Yeah, I think the only way I would buy it is if I haven't bought a camera for 10 years because I have everything and I have a bunch of money saved up and I'm looking for something new to make it fun again. And yeah, I just want to blow money, which I don't see ever happening.
Yeah.
Anyways, J7. I actually think this is a pretty underrated camera.
Really? So I know nothing about this camera.
Basically, its downfall is that it's a Micro Four Thirds, but it like basically will do everything that you ever want a camera to do. Jordan Blodgett, here, a good friend of the show, he's a fan of the GH line. I think he was using like the GH5 back in the day as well. But
so
also
this is Panasonic.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Call me a snob, but I just had no interest in that. But if it's working for people, great.
Yeah, they're really good. Like you're gonna get great photos, you're gonna get great video on there, and lots of manual options with everything. This one I don't totally fully understand. I've never actually touched the Fuji X line, but these sort of seem to make lists all the time.
So this is the Fujifilm X250.
XT50.
XT50. Okay, yeah, I know nothing about that one either, but
it's got a 40
it
megapixel
looks very
sensor.
retro and cool. It also, I'm hoping that there's really minimal auto with the way that camera looks. Like, I hope it's just a full-on manual beast.
Yeah, I think they are like, still fairly high end. I was actually thinking it wasn't full frame, but I think it is an APS-C model. So that's sort of it's down.
Oh, and it's shooting video too. So this is a regular, similar to your DSLR kind of stuff. This isn't a niche camera.
Yeah, it's kind of along the same lines. It will do your photos, it'll do your video, it'll do everything great. But it's APS-C. Great way to save
money. It looks cool though.
Yep.
I like the look for it.
Nikon Z6. Everyone talked a lot about this at the start of the year. Seems like a good camera. Another Leica hitting the list, the SL3.
I have to eat my words on Nikon because I basically said they were done. Remember when I said Nikon was done? They're not done. People like them.
Yeah, and they bought Red,
making good stuff,
and they're coming back.
Yeah.
The Fujifilm GFX 100. This would be a camera that I would like to actually maybe own someday. Basically medium format, 100 megapixel sensor. That's the appeal for me. But yeah, still sort of, it doesn't do everything like as good as like the other cameras do, but it does it, and that's good enough for me. And I get that 100 megapixels and the bigger sensor just for all the stuff that a bigger sensor allows light to do.
You know what my hesitation is for this is everybody that I don't know if I've ever seen a person that's gone medium format and stuck with medium format.
Yeah, I think
that's my hesitation.
Yeah, I think a lot of that too is like 100 megapixel file versus what you're probably used to at 30 or something.
Yeah. So is it going to take that much longer to edit?
Well, it takes that much more computer because it's loading so much more
huge,
data.
Like
it's going to be 3 or 4 times the data than what you're used to.
I'm tired of you still guys whining about how much data you use for pictures.
I don't care. It makes no difference to me. Like if my process is slower, so be it. But um, that's the way it is.
Try shooting raw video and then come back to me and talk about how much hard drives you're taking up.
Number 3, the Canon EOS R1, which should have been the number 1 camera, but falling in the number 3 spot.
Wow. Is that the one you want? So well, once we're done this whole list, then tell me your number 1 choice for you. If you had.
Yeah, I'm seeing the Fujifilm here as number 2, which makes me guess that the camera that I would actually get is number 1. Do you know what it is?
No. Okay, so the EOS R1 is number 3, Fujifilm X100 Mark 6, I think that is.
Yep.
Oh, that's a cool looking camera, that Fujifilm. Man, they're making cool looking cameras. They've got that silver and black, and I like that.
They're sticking with that retro thing, right? Which is, I think, part of why they're making money. But again, this camera over the other Fujifilm? I don't know.
It's got to be a Sony in number 1 then, just to annoy me.
No, it's the other Canon release, the EOS R5 Mark II, which I'm not surprised.
So you call this a stills camera?
Well, a hybrid, right? Like it would do both, but I think its big appeal too is it basically does everything the R1 does, except for some slight variances in things. But like it's got that autofocus stuff. I think the R1's got more of the AI autofocus in it, but it still does it. It does it good enough, and it does it at twice the pixels.
Wow. Canon's got the number 1 spot on both video and stills.
Yeah, but
B&H right now.
Again, too, this is like 2024. I assume things like the A9, A1, whatever A it was that came out last year don't count because they came out last year.
Yeah. Yeah, Sony didn't really come out with a ton this year then. That's must be. And Nikon did. I'm surprised Nikon's has even made the list. I thought their camera was last year, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you before we move to this one. So let's say you had $10,000 that your uncle was like, all right, here, Emery, there's $10,000. You have to buy a camera with it. And you have to, you don't have to spend all the 10 grand on the camera. You can put the rest in the lenses or whatever. But you got $10,000. I want you to upgrade your camera, get a new camera. Which one would you get?
Yeah, probably the 100S. And then
the Fujifilm GFX 100S medium format. So you would go medium format, and then you dump the rest into a couple lenses because that's going to run you about $6,500.
Yeah,
$7,000.
Oh, let's do it real quick here. So I'm just going to add that to cart. This is American too, by the way. So I guess I'm getting American money, right?
Okay, so you're getting 10 grand American. Wow, you've got a rich uncle.
That's good stuff.
Very rich uncle.
We'll go to the accessories here. We'll look. I'd have to buy probably like new memory cards and that too, right? Like so, boop. Add those to cart.
Yeah.
Look at some lenses here.
So this is what I'm curious about because the medium format lenses, they're not that much money.
No, for the most part, they're pretty reasonable.
Okay, so they're running the first one that popped up. 1.465, $600. And then you've got a 55 mil. What was the f-stop on that 55 mil? 1.7, $2,200. I'm guessing that's the high end.
Yeah, the irony is I don't even think those would be the ones I would do because I'd want
these
like
lenses
a wide.
Don't look nice though. Like Canon's
this one
kind of got the sweet looking lenses.
I actually think these lenses, like when you actually like look at them, like in real life.
Oh, that lens looks good. So this is the 1-200. Yeah, I like the look of that.
Yeah. So, anyways, you could kind of do it. I'd find like probably a wide lens to go with that, and then maybe like this 80 or something. Although I recently I never brought them out. I bought a bunch of used lenses, and I've liked them so far.
Where did you buy them?
Well, all on like Marketplace and that. I bought the 35 millimeter cheap RF and
Okay, yeah.
I want to say the 50. I don't
Like the
remember.
cheap one.
Yeah, I bought 3 of them. They're all like the cheap models, but they're all primes and they're good. They work for the
They
purpose.
look nice. You know what? Okay, I'm gonna bring. You should bring your camera sometime. Have you got an adapter, like a RF to EF adapter?
No, that's not a thing, Nick.
Okay. Or well, no. So you can
You can only go EF to RF.
EF to RF. Pardon me.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see how my 50 and 85, like the red stripe 1.2, would match up to those cheaper ones that are RF direct
Yeah, it'd be a good
on
test.
your camera.
Be a good test.
That'd be good.
Yeah. So, anyways, 10 grand, you could do the GFX, or honestly, the other option to 10 grand would be the R5 Mark II.
Yeah, but you go medium format.
Yeah,
I can't see you liking it.
I was kind of just trying to prove my point in the pudding that you could do it.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Well, I don't know. You'd have fun with it for a few years.
Yeah. As the heading says, lights, camera, climate change. Nick, have you ever once thought about your effect on the climate while shooting a video?
So that's interesting. So when we were working on movies, so I worked on movies for about 10 years. I think you did probably for about 10 years too. We thought of our effect on the environment often, because I remember you'd get so much paper and everybody would be quite upset with the amount of paper, because you're getting a lot of there's a lot of very environmentally minded people that work on movies.
Yeah.
I would say as a whole,
You
it's a
missed
stereotype.
my
but
joke about Alfie
oh,
sides.
yeah, the giant sides. So I remember thinking of it often and thinking about the amount of power that all the lights were using and how they had to be run off of like a diesel generator. But what's interesting is I haven't thought of my effect on the environment making my own videos. That's a double standard that I've created for myself. But no, I haven't really thought of it in a long time.
I bet you have. You just don't think you have, because I think for the most part, like people think about like efficiencies and how you're going to do it the most efficient way possible, and that's really when you're talking efficiencies with it, you're going to reduce that footprint, so to speak. The other thing too, when it's just you going out to shoot something, you're not really creating that as big of a footprint as Hollywood or even a small movie being shot in Saskatchewan. So there's those things, but some of those things you touched on, battery usage or power usage, sorry, in your lights, changing those giant sunlights into whatever that can be used more efficiently. Hydrogen powered trailers.
Oh, was that a thing now?
Apparently, yeah, EV fast chargers and solar storage systems. So all these different things are being done on stuff. I'm actually surprised paper isn't in here somewhere.
Yeah, I'm curious because I haven't worked on a movie in 10 or 15 years because I've been shooting my own stuff. But I'm guessing that there's not the same amount of paper that there used to be.
Yeah.
Although, me being old, if I went back to work on a movie, I would want a pair of sides. I wouldn't want a digital one because I used to take all my notes. Like, okay, we're moving at noon. I'd have a little thing there, and then all right, I got to make sure I get the truck ready by scene 3. I would mark mine up I'd plan my day out with the sides.
Yeah.
So, and then I guess I could look at maybe get used to the digital, but then how they on the back of the sides they'd have the next 2 days scheduled out.
Mm-hmm.
So then you kind of plan. I used to really like that, just to plan and organize what you were going to do for the next couple of days to make sure you didn't get caught without any gear that you needed or something like that.
Yeah. Another one, like as a small production that you can sort of focus on again, it's something I think we advocate for all the time, but don't necessarily think of it as like a climate thing, but purchasing used gear, don't go out and buy new. That stuff creates new emissions, new everything. So used is the way to go. Stuff like that.
Yeah. So now this is my confession on the climate change. So I basically got rid of my old lights, my halogen. They were 1,000 watt, 1,500 watt. But now I still use high powered backlights, but I'm going to convert to all LED for my front lights. But yeah, so now do I find some used lights? Yeah, maybe that's a challenge for myself, try to find some used lights. I was thinking about going new, but if I could find some, I would get them.
Yep, for sure.
You know what I'll do, Emery? Save it. This will be a huge savings to the environment. What I'll do, I'll fly to Toronto, buy used lights, and then fly back. That'll save it,
I
huh?
guess so, eh? You know what though, too, like even when you think about like you're learning and doing stuff online to figure it out. Again, I'm not saying like not to do it, but you've talked about going to like NAB and that, like, well,
Mm-hmm.
you know what, maybe that's reason enough not to. Actually, maybe that's reason enough NAB should be doing stuff online.
Interesting. So my biggest rebuttal would be if you're in an industry that requires networking, there is nothing like networking in person and getting to know people in person.
Maybe.
Um,
I've seen some stuff, and actually, we'll see if I can't get her on. But I've seen some stuff with networking online that's I think has worked quite well.
yeah, yeah. Actually, so for example, this podcast when we used to do guests, which we should start doing some guests again. That I don't think of it as networking, but it in a way, basically any of our guests, I feel like we could call up and would be quote unquote on a very friendly level with them. So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess you
Well,
can do it online with that.
yeah. Networking is one of those things too. Like I almost feel like if to be good at networking, you have to be into it. And I'm not in a spot in my life where I'm really into it.
Well, um, I don't even know how to respond to that. My goodness.
Perfect.
Um, it's I would guess it's because you're pretty comfortable in your job. You like where you are. I'm guessing you like what you're doing because if you didn't, then networking would be a lot more important.
Yeah, maybe. Or if like my job was different, friend of the show, Colin Poular, my boss, he's good at networking. He's good at, talking people up, chatting them up, whatever you want to do with it, and actually making a connection that'll last and following up on those connections. And I mean, anybody can do it. And he's actually spoke about like how it's not necessarily his favorite thing. It sort of wears him out. If he does that all day, he's tired at the end of the day. But I think there's people who have a skill for it and people who don't. But like all skills, skills can be learned.
Yeah. Yeah, so this has been a recurring thing with you. You have the ability to do it. You just don't maybe like doing it. And what I mean what you have the ability is like you can go into a room full of people and you can give a really nice and meaningful speech. Basically a good enough speech that people are going to give a round of applause for. And then you can stay and you can connect with all those people, make friends with them. But for some reason you don't like doing it. I'm so confused by you sometimes.
Thanks. I just love how positive it started off too. Like, this is the thing with you. You keep doing this and you can do it, but you don't want to, you bum. Like,
Yeah. I don't know. It's confusing because you're like pretty good at it, and you naturally are able to just make friends, but for some reason, maybe you don't consider that networking. I don't know. You're good at it, but maybe just don't like. Yeah, I'm not sure what the problem is.
I don't think it's a problem. I actually think what you said actually like applies to everybody. Like if you just don't want to do something, you're not going to do it.
Yeah, that's true.
You could probably learn it. You could probably pick up. You could probably whatever, but you're just not going to do it because you don't want to.
Yeah.
Speaking of people who don't want to, worst segue ever, but who is the greatest actor in Hollywood history?
Interesting. So now, so this title says a statistical analysis. So are they, I'm assuming that they're taking into account, say, Rotten Tomatoes. They're not just taking into account their acting; they're taking into account the entire movie as well. Is that correct?
Correct.
So, in a way, it's also dependent on the director as well.
So here's your criteria. Criteria 1, online ratings.
Okay, so they're taking into account online ratings.
I think they broke it down each time too, like who gets it, if I remember correctly. So by online ratings, who's got the highest is James Stewart.
Okay.
Then you got DiCaprio, Daniel Radcliffe, Cary Grant, Chris Evans, a bunch of other people. Kate Winslet looks like the only girl. Am I reading that female on there?
No, Audrey Hepburn's right underneath.
Oh, good call. So that's going by online ratings, and then they mix it with the next one, which is box office.
Okay, so the critics basically, and then what the people are saying with the box office.
And
so this box office, the number one up there, actually doesn't surprise me with Will Smith being at the top of the box office.
And then Tom Cruise.
Because he had a good 20-year run where his movies were almost guaranteed, like almost must-sees there for a while.
And then Tom Cruise is just still running.
Yeah. Now I actually like watching Tom Cruise in movies just because he is such a presence on the screen. But I'm thinking that this has as much to do with longevity because he's just been doing it for so long.
Yeah. Right. And like Will Smith will trail off here a bit. Some of these other
his
people,
might come back.
Tom might pass him. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the ones on here that I actually like a lot, there's 2 of them on here that I think are awesome that they're on here. But I wish one of them was higher. But the first one I think is awesome is Jim Carrey. Love the fact that he's made this list. Good old Canadian boy. And the fact
and he hasn't done anything for 15 years.
And the fact that he's just a goofball, right? The rest of these are basically like action stars, right?
Yeah.
And then the other one on here is Brad Pitt. For some reason, I just like a lot of Brad Pitt movies, like him in them.
Yeah. Yeah. His movies, I've heard that Brad Pitt will say yes to everything. So he's always got a movie lined up.
Yeah.
But then he'll back out of the movies like as they get closer so that he'll keep his schedule going.
Yeah.
Which he's in a weird luxury position where he can do crap like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Brad Pitt was supposed to be in a movie in Regina at one time. Do you remember that?
Vaguely, yeah.
They thought they were going to get Brad Pitt, and then he was out on it. And then they were just like, that's what he does.
Yeah, but instead we got Deadpool, so.
Oh, boy.
Criterion number 3, Oscar recognition, which I think is also fair to add into this. So it's kind of nice to see the women taking the top of the charts here, eh? Meryl Streep and Katharine Hepburn. Betty Davis is on it. And then, you got some of the regulars. Jack Nicholson, which is one name we haven't seen. Denzel Washington's a name we haven't seen too, which I would put him up there as well. Al Pacino, lots of people like him. De Niro.
Did I tell you that I saw One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest like maybe a year ago?
No.
So they must have remastered it or something because it looked sharp and good. It just had uh, this it didn't stand up as far as pacing goes because it was just so different from today's pacing.
Yeah.
But Jack Nicholson was so ridiculously good in it that yeah, it was insane to see him acting at that level in that old of a movie where lots of the stuff didn't really hold up, but his acting held up like crazy. It's so good.
Yeah. So now the winners. Any guess?
Well, so
It's almost
based on the
impossible. It's an
picture,
impossible
it's
question,
hard.
but good.
It I would the problem with Tom Cruise is I don't think is he a lot of his movies aren't that well rated, are they?
Probably not. Yeah.
So, um, based on the picture, I'm gonna guess Leonardo DiCaprio.
I don't think he's the top one.
You don't think he's the top one?
But I do
Okay.
think, like I said, some of the I like the idea of Hepburn in there. I've seen this, I just don't remember it. But Hepburn should be in there somewhere. Um, dare I say,
Yeah.
Will Smith?
Well, I still like Will Smith as an actor. Is that bad to say? I really do
No,
like watching him
no
on the
crap.
screen. Oh, it is DiCaprio. DiCaprio, and then Paul Newman, Al Pacino, Jack Nicholson, Brad Pitt. Who's the top female? What do we got down there?
Audrey Hepburn,
Audrey Hepburn. Okay.
the only female on the list.
Meryl Streep didn't make the list. Huh.
No. Tom Hanks, I feel like was a 1-2. Like that wasn't necessarily on the stuff above, but sort of just how he leveled out, which makes sense to me. And Denzel, same thing.
So who would be in this new generation then? Because these are a lot of old
Yeah, right. That's actually,
actors. Who would be the up and comers then?
oh, man, that's a great question. Do you want to? The weird part is the only name coming to mind is like Zac Efron.
Well,
because he's been in everything.
He's been in everything. So I think it's just so different, right? Because being in a movie does not have the same credibility that it had 20 years ago. Whereas now, I watch more TV series than I do movies. And I used to watch a ton of movies, like a ton. But yeah, I don't know. I think the movie star has changed. And I don't know how you become a movie star nowadays. It's a little bit different.
Yeah. I feel like there are like some people creeping up. I don't really know the names of them anymore. So it's
You
like a
know
little
what? We'd
bit
have to
different.
get Dustin on here. He would know.
Yeah, or like someone younger.
Someone younger than us? Yeah,
Yeah.
they would know too.
Like my daughter would be able to tell us. I mean, like, oh, this person's
Yeah.
huge. And I'd be like, you're a fool.
Yeah. That would be the title of our episode. You're a fool. You can just walk past Ruth. It's all good.
So Nick, Fujifilm.
Okay. What was the title? I missed it.
Smartphones crush digital cameras, but Fujifilm is making a comeback. TikTok is driving demand for Fujifilm's faux vintage cameras. So that look you're talking about, that's a big part of why. This goes into some charts sort of showing like the digital camera peak. So from 99 with sort of peak, it looks like in 2010, judging by them actually writing it in there. And then now we're back down to sort of where we were almost in 1999. But one camera maker is crushing it, and that's Fujifilm. And this is what their stuff is looking like. This doesn't go back to 99. They would have been higher then. But I think the big point is back from like 2007 to 2012, they were going negative. And then since then, they've been peaking. And specifically in looks like 2020 was when they started reviving that look of the old school camera. And it has
now is this their camera income or is this their developing income? Making cash
operating income, it says.
Wow. Fujifilm. Now, I would have never guessed that they were going to make a comeback like that.
Yep.
Where their operating income is 100 billion. What's that, yen? Now I don't know what 100 billion. Maybe that's $12. I have no idea. But 100 billion yen versus losing money 10 years ago. What a turnaround.
Yeah. And they are
Now,
basically crediting the X100. So they're on the X100 and there. That was one of our
and that's a
cameras of the year, was it not?
$1,600 camera.
There you go.
And that's not a fixed lens on there, is it?
I think it is.
Okay.
It might not
That's
be.
kind of cool that it's a fixed lens. That makes a lot of sense because that would be tricky. Well, it almost looks like that lens comes off. Or is
No,
that just
it's
an adapter?
attachments. I think it's, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Now, yeah, I know very little about this. Does that camera give you that retro look right out of, like, so you take a picture and it looks retro, like as if you were taking a picture on film in the late 90s or something like that?
Yes, actually, I think, don't quote me on this, but I believe all Fujifilm's cameras, digital cameras, come with Fujifilm emulators. And I believe I know like the 100S had like 4 or 5 different film stocks.
So I would actually have fun with that. Taking a picture that looked like I was taking it on my DSLR that I had in 1994 or whatever. 90, because I had a fixed lens. Remember Pentax?
Yep.
Yeah, I had a fixed lens Pentax. And it took a great image.
Pentax is still around, Nick.
Really?
I think so.
I have not heard of Pentax.
Remember Pentax?
How is Pentax still around?
I think they are.
I've not seen a single one of their cameras in 20 years. Somehow they're still around. Wow. I remember a buddy of mine had a Pentax camera and I thought it was the coolest thing. So then I went out and got a Pentax camera. It was good, but my eyes didn't really open up till I got a non-fixed lens where I could actually change the lenses and stuff. That was when my photography actually got some good pictures.
Yeah. There you go. So it boasts their latest recipe, yada yada, including Provia, Velva, Astia, Classic Chrome Pro, Negative Standard Pro. It is a lot of different film emulations. And I also believe, again, don't quote me on this, that you can take the picture and I think you have to have it like in a mode and like selected one of these things, and you'll take the picture and you'll look at the picture on your back of your screen and it'll be that. But I actually think you have the option to turn it back to just a regular photo, like on the computer after.
Yeah. And I'm guessing that you can click, send it to my phone, send it to your phone. Boom, it's on Instagram. Otherwise, if you've got to take this all to your computer and edit it, there's no way it would be as successful as it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, that film camera we talked about not too long ago. Pentax just came out with that.
Nobody's bought it. Like, this is just it's a shell company for somebody that's trying to move some money, isn't it?
No, this looks like the Pentax website. You got a couple cameras.
Yeah, so this would be a perfect business
full frame camera
for somebody that's got dirty money and they're trying to launder it. It's Pentax, because nobody's ever bought one of these things.
Well, hey, if you're out there and you have a Pentax, let us know how it is.
Yeah. Emails are going to come flooding in.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nick, wanted to go through some quick hits here too. The top 10 best real estate apps. Do you use any real estate apps? Are you still into that?
Yeah. So while in Canada, so this is different for the States, but in Canada, a lot of it's just on realtor.ca because most of the stuff has to be done through the real estate associate. The realtors have, I'm guessing, some type of lobbyist or something, and they still have a lot of power in Canada. Whereas I don't think they hold quite the same power in the US. Yeah. I think that they've kind of broken that up.
I was shocked to find that down here at 4.3 and all these apps above it. Zillow's another, and House are two. I know, like when you're looking for a house, the Canadian mortgage app, I believe, is like if you're looking to get a mortgage. It's like a finance app.
Mm.
Anyways, thought it was interesting. Thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, I didn't think Zillow worked that well in Canada. At least last time I used it, it was kind of like, oh, it's worked if you were checking out a house in Arizona or something.
I think Zillow and House have slick interfaces.
Okay, so maybe they're working better in Canada now.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Nothing else is different, just a slick interface. For the worst pieces of advice from the investment industry, what's the worst piece of investment advice you've ever gotten, Nick?
The worst piece of investment advice that I've ever got is now I'm going to stick strictly to investment, so I'm not going to call it budgeting, because the worst piece of advice I ever got was related to budgeting. But the worst piece of investment advice that I've ever got was just to be very wary. Like, yes, it can go up, but it could also go down, and be very wary about it, because although I think you should be educated, I don't know if that's the best way to frame it.
Yeah.
Is just to be very wary about it.
Yeah, fair enough. That's like Psychology of Money stuff. Read that book if you haven't, by the way. It's not really about money. I'm curious now, the worst advice you got about budgeting.
The worst advice that I got about budgeting was that it couldn't be done because money gets spent no matter what. So the budget's not going to make a difference.
Can we say who told you that?
No, I'm not going to put him under the bus.
Sweet. At least it wasn't me.
No, it wasn't you. No, somebody quite influential to me told it to me, but I've since decided that it's not true to my life.
Fair enough, right? I sort of teach their own. I mean, I think the fact that you do spend it all is the reason to budget.
Yes. Yeah. Because it's just having a more detailed plan about it, because you're actually being able to tell, okay, if I buy this, I can't buy that. If I buy this, I can't invest that. I can't save that. It really makes it very clear. So the argument against it that you hear all the time is, well, what happens when your car breaks, or, the gutters fell off our house and we need to spend $4,000 to get new gutters. So that just wrecks the budget. But a properly set up budget would have an emergency fund where if something that's kind of out of your control happens, you just take it out of the emergency fund and then you budget to replenish the emergency fund, over the next month or 2 months or 3 months, however long it takes. And then you're back on track. It's amazing.
So their first advice on here is you must, and this is bad advice, you must invest to grow your savings. So basically they're sort of talking about, like, if you're in debt, pay down your debt first. So that's not necessarily true.
Okay. So don't take out a loan to invest. Or I guess if you're investing before paying down your savings, is that, hold on.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the best idea for you at the time, right? There might be other things that will save you or make you more money in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah. Take care of your debt, especially your consumer debt, for sure.
Yeah. Number 2, big returns require big fees.
Yeah. So this is actually a debate. And I did read a book on this recently. So Dave Ramsey actually doesn't spend a lot of time on big fees. He seems somewhat okay with them as long as they're outpacing the returns, but that seems to be a criticism of Ramsey's approach.
Yeah, I think.
Whereas Clark Howard,
I think it's all a percentage, right? Like, so as long as you're outpacing the fees by a certain percentage, that's making you wealthy and you're happy with that, then sure. I am getting more and more curious though about robo-advisors.
Yeah. So that was, Clark Howard, fees is huge to him. And then I had a book recommended to me called Beat the Bank, which I was highly skeptical of based on its title. But the whole focus of the book was just make sure your fees are low. So
ironically,
it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, for me, I kind of took it to so at work we have like an actual person we can talk to for the financial advisor, I should call him that. And I asked him because I didn't understand like what my fees were with our investments there,
Yeah.
and they are high. They're 2%. Now,
Ooh.
right, but here's the thing: is so I'm investing 5%. My company's investing 5%. Minus that 2% is still
Oh yeah.
8%. So yeah, okay, fine, whatever. So now I'm
You're getting a match, so 100%. Take as much match as you can, even at 2%.
right because I'm
Totally.
still ahead then.
And then for your investment outside of that,
Any
I think you
additional,
want to be at the point 0.6 is the highest you want to be at
yeah. So any
percentage
additional
wise.
investments, and that's why I think I'm gonna start looking at robo investors and maybe moving things that way. But I have a hard time like jumping that hurdle into robo.
Why?
I don't know because I'm a baby. Do you do some robo?
Yeah. So all
What do
it
you
is
use?
so
What do you
that
use for it?
so we use Simple and we also use CI Direct.
Okay.
But there's like 4 or 5 in Canada that are pretty good.
Yeah, Quest Trade I think
Uh,
is one,
and basically all they do is so the essential thing is it's similar to a mutual fund, but it's an ETF. But they basically just buy, like they've got a tiny bit in Apple, they got a tiny bit in Nvidia, they got a tiny bit in Walmart, they got a tiny bit in the BMO, the bank, like a bunch of different banks. They got, so then they'll have like 25% American, 25% Canadian, and then like you're just being an owner of all of these little different companies, which makes it a lot easier to swallow when you hear, oh, Walmart made however many $1 billion and is charging a fortune. It's like, well, at least got a little bit on Walmart because of that. Like I don't own any standalone stocks, but I've got a little bit based on this kind of mutual fund or ETF. So I don't know.
um, yeah,
I would do it for your stuff. Once you get your emergency fund taken care of, yeah, it doesn't hurt to put a bit of money into that every month, right?
yeah. Number 3 on here, bond funds are fixed income. This runs into what you were just sort of saying too, and why this also is a bad idea. But basically, the idea is that like bonds are safe all the time, and that's not the case. The market, essentially, whether you like it or not, is gambling. The There was one, I don't remember who it was that I was listening to. I've been listening to a lot of Rami Sethi lately, but uh, they were basically saying like when you look at all the days on the graph, if you watch your investments, you're going to make
Mm-hmm.
most of your investments in like 2 or 3 days, and you don't know when
Yeah,
those days happen, and you don't know
exactly.
what they're going to do. So same as it can go up, it can go down. So your bonds aren't a guarantee because it's gambling.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I've been brainwashed or I've read it in so many ways that it's like bad to try to time the market that I've just decided to never try to time the market.
Yeah,
So
it's not a thing, really, is what they're saying. Always keep cash on hand for emergencies is the number 4 one. Do you do this?
really,
That's bad advice,
I
they're
was just
saying.
saying how good that was. So why is this bad?
I don't think you need to keep like your emergency fund on hand.
So they're saying, okay, I'm gonna actually read this. So it's saying always keep. So this is bad advice, is what the article's saying. They often hear the financial industry advocates parrot a general rule that households should have between 3 and 6 months worth of monthly expenses in cash for emergencies. With higher rates at record levels, household debt is an emergency. That emergency money would be better spent paying down interest generating debt than sitting in a bank account earning zero interest. Having debt eliminated or at least under control leaves a household in a better position. Okay, those thousands of dollars sitting idly in a bank every year waiting for an emergency could also be better spent in an RRSP or TFSA and compounding. Okay, so do you want to talk on this first or do you want me to?
I actually think I follow this. So I am technically, my thoughts is that my TFSA is my emergency fund.
Yeah. So, I a pardon me article, but when I said that you should have the emergency fund, I was under the assumption that you had removed your debt, because why yes, I agree with that. That you should not have the emergency fund till you've got your debt taken care of, because it'd be way better used for that. Um, and then I agree with you too. If you have room in your TFSA, store your emergency fund in there. Whether you should be invested in the market, that would be something depending on your risk level and how much money you have. Like, my emergency fund is just in a high interest savings, earning lower than what we could in the market, but I don't know. I'm okay losing that little bit to have that peace of mind that knows that the car breaks down, just get it fixed. Yeah. Well, I don't have to go, oh, the car's broken down, but the market's down. Ooh, do we put off the repair or just not drive for a couple months, waiting for the market to come back? I don't know.
Yeah. This other article here, 4 money questions to ask on the first date. Frankly, I don't think you should ask any, but it got me
really.
thinking,
I would. Oh my goodness!
On a first
I can't help
date,
myself.
Nick, on a first date. It's been a long. I know it's been a long time for you, bud. But
okay. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't even know what a first date looks like. This is a bad one for me, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in this either, but what was your relationship with money when you were growing up? What is your relationship with money now? What's your annual income?
One's to ask, right?
Yeah. What's your annual income?
Yeah.
What's your target?
That one I wouldn't ask.
Yeah. What's your target annual income? They're saying to ask these on a first date. What I want to get at with
they're saying to or not to? I'm confused.
To ask.
Oh, to ask. Okay.
Yeah, which I think those are.
I was saying I would ask these, except for the how much do you make? That's a tricky one.
Yeah. What questions, or like, what does a financial talk with you and your wife look like? How's that play out? What questions are you asking? What do you say? What does she say?
What do you mean?
Well, like, have you asked your wife these questions, or did you at one point?
Well, I was an idiot, so I wouldn't have known how to ask any of these questions when we were dating. So the relationship with money when you were growing up, no, I wasn't smart enough to ask that. That's a great question. But yeah, I wish that would have been a good one to ask. I love it.
Did you guys talk about money like before you got married? Like how it was going to work?
So it was fairly well established before we got married that I was going to be the one taking care of it. which fast forward 15, 20 years, stress level goes up and up and up, right? Because if it's all up to you, it's not fun. So yeah, we don't do that anymore. Now we decide on things together, and it's not just me running the whole show, because it's too stressful.
That's interesting. So like, there's been some like progress, because my next question was like, is it still the same way now? So clearly, do you guys have like a weekly, monthly talk about it, or is it just a talk when needed?
We do have a monthly talk, but our months are so dialed in now that it's like 30 seconds. And it's not much. So now it would be more of an as needed. Like at the end of the year, I will go over the stuff and say, "Hey, Janice, this is what our net worth's at. This is what we've got in our different funds." That's about it. That would be the big talk. But then, yeah, the month to month is so dialed in that it doesn't hardly come up anymore. Although it depends. Now, mine does depend because my income fluctuates. So there's certain months where it's like, it looks like we got to dial it back a bit because Nick's not making any money this month.
Because Nick's a bum.
Yeah.
Now, on a scale of like 1 to 10, how important are these talks, or was the initial talk to your relationship?
Well, so yeah, looking back, I can only say, because that was how we did it. So it was, I just made all these choices, and then we just lived with whatever those results were from those choices, right? And then with that, um, it just brought so much stress to me because it felt to me like if I screwed it up, it would be all my fault, which it would have been. But so now it's so nice to just go, okay, we both have to agree on this before I go out and do something like buy a house. Like I literally bought a house once without her even seeing it or having an input. Like how silly is that? It's just nonsense, right? Like what kind of loser does that? I don't know. That's how we operated.
Oh man, I hope that is the part that we make into a short.
Yeah, I hope it does
I
pick that up.
literally bought a house once. Oh man, that's too funny. um,
No, and then I sent her the thing because it was like, oh, you got to sign this stuff because I'm buying a house. Whatever. I don't know. She just sign it. Our life was so different. To look back on where it is now is crazy.
So I guess my take on this too is I kind of agree with everything you say. I don't think I would ask these questions on the first date, but I do think before you get yourself into a point where you are going to, maybe commit to this person longer, you should probably talk about money.
That first question is one of the best questions because that's also going to spark great conversation. Like you're going to get to hear, you're going to get to hear what their parents thought about money. They're going to get to hear whether they agree or disagree, what they want to do going forward. There's a lot of information in that.
Yeah. I also think you might get slapped.
Nobody's going to slap me over that question.
Maybe some people just can't handle it. It's like too intrusive.
So actually, you know what?
I don't even know how I would answer that question.
So I've got very little. I will talk about money quite freely with people for the most part, and I'll ask them like, "Oh, how much you got a rental? How much does it rent for? What's this? What are your expenses on that?" But yeah, I have met people where it's like, "Oh, that's actually a personal question," and I had to kind of take a step back and go, "Yeah, fair enough. They're right."
But in the back,
that is a personal question.
Back of your head, you're like, you're an idiot.
No, I was taken aback because most people just answer it. But then I did think about it and was like, it's totally legitimate for them to say it's a personal question, and good for them for holding their, having their boundaries to, if that was a boundary they have of sticking to it.
Yeah. So Nick, for the last 20 minutes, I've asked you finance questions. What was the point of all that?
I have no idea.
There's no point ever. The best Canadian personal finance YouTubers to watch in 2024. There's a lot of them.
I don't watch a ton of YouTubers for finance. Do you?
There are a couple I watch on this list.
Most of my stuff has come from books and Ramsey, and then Clark Howard.
This might shock you then. How many do you think are going to be on this list?
For them?
For the top finance YouTubers, Canadian finance YouTubers in 2024.
They're not going to be on here because they're not Canadian.
Well, no, but how many people will be? How many YouTubers?
Oh.
Canadian finance YouTubers.
There's got to be a lot, but yeah, how many of them are like us that just nobody watches or stuff?
Fair enough. Anyways, top of the list, Steph and Den. You have 95,000. Preet.
Okay.
Banerjee, hopefully I pronounced that right, 121,000. XO Rennie, 28,000. Don't Go Broke Trying, 1,000. Cheap Guy Rahul, 31,000. Money Sense. Money Sense, if you want to call it that. Living in Canada, 18,000. Newbie Canadian, 13,000.
So why is Money Sense a YouTuber to watch in 2024?
I don't know.
They've had the channel since 2013. They've got 4,000 subscribers. This year they're going to crush it?
Oh, they probably still have good advice, right?
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
Yeah. Charlie Wayne, debt free, How to Adult School. That's funny. Whiz Queen, Jessica Morehouse. That's one I actually follow. Wealth
Really?
Awesome, Gabrielle Talks Money, or Gabriel. Not sure which one. 50,000 people for that one. New Money Nate, Canadian. There was sort of sections here too. I guess that was all the first section, and then this next section's investors. The Plain Bagel, Ben Felix, Common Sense Investing, Financial Nirvana Mama, Griffin,
Hmm.
Mike's Beavis Wealth, Canadian in a T-shirt, Adrian Barr, Daniel Pronk. Point is, there's a lot of them. A lot of them. Simply
Yeah.
Investing, Humble Trader, Budgeting. Oh, your budget. Zoe Pritchard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have zero problems if we converted this into a budgeting podcast.
Yeah. I like I said, this information's out there. Honestly, whatever you are into, there is probably a list like this for YouTubers that you should probably follow, and it'll get you more into whatever you're into.
Yeah.
So, like, do
Guess
it.
what YouTubers I've been following lately?
Go on.
I'm going to give you 3 guesses. I bet you'll guess it by the second one.
I feel like I should know these based off the books you've been reading, but I can't think of the authors.
No, so the YouTube section that pops up on my screen all the time when I open YouTube,
Just 2
disc
camera
golf.
guys. Oh yeah. Yeah, I should have known.
Yeah. I watched this one. They had a virtual, or not virtual, it was like a reality show. It was imposter disc golf. Didn't make any sense, but they had this imposter and they were trying to play bad. And then get this, if they won the round, guess how much money they would make?
10 grand.
500 bucks.
500 bucks. I don't know what the disc golf crowd goes with.
And there's like 8 guys there, right? And they're all taking time off of whatever. They're there for like a whole week and going out and doing rounds. And the whole pot, so the whole pot is 5 grand. But then if the imposter somehow imposters him, screws it up for the team, he gets 500 bucks and he takes it off at the pot. The whole premise makes no sense, but it's great to watch. I love it.
2 more quick hits here, Nick. Just wanted to go over this. Northern Light images from 140 years ago. Basically, what the article goes through is at the Cambridge Polar Museum, at the Scott Polar Research Institute. They're showing off these images, these black and white images of aurora. And basically what
fabulous.
Yeah, it sort of runs through like how taking photos of aurora that long ago was extremely difficult. If you can see their setup of stuff here.
Wow. Okay, can you send me the link? I want to post this link in the description of our video, because this is worth checking out. This is cool stuff on here.
So now here's the thing. These are paintings. So because they couldn't actually physically make it happen in that time, the guy who was trying to take photos ended up painting them and then taking photos of those paintings and then preserving it on cellulose that way.
Interesting.
But what's also interesting to me is like I've seen these, right? Like I instantaneously know what they are.
Yeah.
From 140 years ago. So it's kind of cool.
That's very cool. Well, like, yeah, their setup out there, giving her the old go. Really cool.
Yeah. One last one here too. Can rainbows form a circle? Fun facts on the physics of rainbows. Mostly I just wanted to talk about this because I don't think people realize that like this is like a photographic thing, something you deal with every day. So rainbows are basically like tiny prisms. So water is refracting through, light is refracting through water. And ultimately that's sort of what makes the rainbow, the bend of that light, just like a prism. When you're using curved lenses, what are things you have to deal with? Why are you getting what am I calling it? Sun flares. What's the other one you get? Blanking.
The like in the winter where they call them
No.
sundogs or
Like from
whatever.
on your lens itself, flares and whatever else, right? You get all sorts of distortions. It's the same thing. It's refraction and light. So even rainbows can be like photographic things without photographing them.
Can you see a rainbow and not take a picture of it?
All the time.
No, you don't. You're
Yeah,
lying.
I don't care about
You see,
rainbows that much.
no, I'm not talking like, oh, you misted some air, some water in your kitchen and it made a little mini rainbow. I'm talking like you see a big rainbow outside after a rainstorm.
Yeah.
You don't go take a picture of it?
No, about the most I do is like, ooh, a rainbow.
Oh no, I see a rainbow. I gather the whole family. We go take pictures in front of the rainbow. It's like photo time every time I see a rainbow.
Yeah.
I thought everybody did that.
No. Anyways, there's
No?
lots of physics into rainbows. I think if you're interested in it, look it up. Refraction of light and how all that stuff works. And yeah, it's interesting. Nick, one
Dude, these
other
are kind of cheap rainbows they're doing. This guy's got a sprinkler. He's taking a picture of a rainbow. I don't agree with that. The other guy, there's a little bit of mist on a crocodile, and he's taking a rainbow. I don't agree with that either.
I think it's just going through the like what it can do, right? And how it's this visual effect. So, one other thing I wanted to talk to you about, Nick, here, because it's something I know you've talked to me a little bit about it, and it's actually something I've got experience with. I worked on I'm going to call it a movie a long time ago.
Okay.
It was called Orphans of the Sand. It was this small budget thing done, and what my role on that movie was to I was
name
basically
the director?
I was shooting the behind the scenes, the documentary of it.
Okay, I know who directed that. I guarantee it. I'm pretty sure his name will come to mind.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. And anyways,
okay,
I shoot this thing. They actually edited the behind the scenes thing first, and it won an award at a film festival, which is also kind of funny.
You're behind the scenes did.
Yeah, I mean, like I just shot it though, right? Like, so I didn't actually like put it together or anything,
yeah.
but it did win an award, and which is kind of neat as well. But the thing with that was, so I did this basically when I was in film school. I was working at Sport Check at the time, and also trying to do this. Also had, a 3 or 4 year old daughter at the time with that as well, doing all these things. And I got paid on consignment. So essentially, if the movie ever made money, I would make money, which the movie never ever made money. I had high hopes that it would. I thought it might. I thought this was how this worked, but it just didn't work out that way. And I never ever got paid from this thing. Like I'm barely even recognized. I'm like a footnote in the credit for the thing.
You know what? So I've got two different opinions on this. I've got there's some nostalgia that's just come back when you said Orphans in the Sand, because I worked on a similar movie by the same production team with the same setup, where you got paid on consignment. But you know what was so good about that? I met Orphans of the Sand. I met so many people on that movie that went on to work on movies with me, that we became friends on that show, that it helped out so much. And when I look back on that movie, I've got so many fond memories of that.
Yeah.
It's very nostalgic for me. Now flip that with let's pretend that I kept making those kind of movies, just continually hoping for this eventual payday. That would be the worst.
Yeah. Or how about like a big budget movie? We've had some come here and where they put out like calls for extras, and like they don't. I think they basically pay extras with food.
Yes. Yeah, that's so annoying because you'll get. It's one of my biggest annoyances with the film industry is there's so much. If you help us out now, we'll help you later. And spoiler alert, they're not going to help you later. It's just not going to happen. It's never happened. Because what'll happen is they'll be like, oh, we got a big budget coming down the pipe. Oh, there's a huge budget coming down the pipe. And they might get that huge budget, but there's still going to be a call out on that huge budget. Saturday, we just need some free extras. You can come out. We've got food. It'll be a fun way to spend the afternoon. Actually, the whole day. Call time's at 9. We're not sure what time we're gonna be able to let you go. And it'll be a lot of fun.
It'll be a lot of fun.
The rest of the crew is making money. The producer's making money. The director's making money. Everybody's making legit money. But we really need you to come out and be an extra for free on this. I don't know. That always drives me crazy.
Yeah. Do you know why they do that?
You know what? I don't know. Because I've worked on set and I could take a guess at it, but I don't know.
You would probably know. Like it comes down to money, right? Like at the same time. So basically they're paying everybody off and their budget's blown before they're even making the thing. And then they're trying to make these minute decisions in between to hopefully keep it on budget, on time, and whatever else. There's one other thing I was thinking, just with money involved as well, but I am blanking on it right now. but it really does boil down to money.
Yeah. So this didn't just happen back in the day. This is continually happening. It's going to happen in the future. And I don't know. So there's a legit thing. Like, let's pretend that a friend of mine was making a short film and was like, hey, Nick, we need a cinematographer for this. Would you come out and work as a cinematographer for free? Yeah, I'd actually really consider that. Yeah, they got no money. They want to put together a kind of a passion project. That sounds like fun, but a big company that's got a lot of money, that's already got a lot of money onto a project, that wants you to come out and work for free, not as fun.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they're selling it as fun.
Yes. Yeah.
Also too, like how many do you think that's like burned a lot of people out of the industry, or like people are just like, man, that sucked. Why would I ever do that again? Next time that casting agent calls, I'm not coming.
Oh, I'm sure it has. It has definitely soured, or it did sour me on some different production companies back in the day, of just going, well, like this future project never comes, so we'll either pay me on this one, or I guess you'll have to find somebody else, because I just don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. And just morally too, like if you're going to get someone to work, pay them.
Yeah.
Actually, another example of this outside of the film industry, my daughter is, so she's doing some interviews for vet clinics around, and one of the vet clinics wants her to do a week working interview there. So basically they want her to work for a week, but they also don't want to pay her.
That's a red flag.
That's kind of what I told her too. I'm like, I'm like, they should pay you for, like, I don't care if they pay you minimum wage. They should be paying you to do it. But
well, you would pay a paper boy to see if they're good to start out.
Yeah, I like the idea of the week-long working to figure it out, but pay them.
Yeah. Oh, I love that too. I think that's great, because it actually is going to tell you whether you want to work for them too.
Yep.
So it's a kind of a no risk on either side, no hard feelings, free like week to figure it out. But
until you don't pay them.
Yeah, that's just such a red flag.
But
you're right. Yeah,
that's kind of what the film industry is doing, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
It's such a red flag, but we're gonna do it and continue doing it.
Yeah, but I love your idea of, even if it's just minimum wage, it's at least something, because right now the company has nothing invested in you.
Yeah,
and for them, like the whole kind of skin in the game, it's all on you, and they've got nothing.
Yeah.
So what's the point? Yeah.
Nick, we should wrap it up here. Do you got any closing remarks you would like to say?
Yeah. Keep your batteries charged. Have I used that one yet?
It's maybe once or twice. I don't know.
Oh, we've covered so many topics.
Here's a quick question for you, because I've actually seen this. How do you feel about people who don't stuff their cameras into their bags with their lens caps on? Are you that guy? Nick, you're a horrible person.
So I ran into this the other day. I was filming Tuesday. I was on a shoot. And I can't find my 60-35 lens cap. And so I pulled it off the camera and I didn't know where it went. And for some reason, I dropped my back cap off the new lens that I put on into the bottom of the bag. And I was on the ice, like hockey ice. And I had my bag there, and it was like fumbling around in the bag looking for it. And guess what I did? I put my 16-35 down in my bag with no caps on it. Fire. Not a front cap, not a back cap. And just put it in the bag.
And this is why you don't get paid in the film industry, folks.
Yeah. Oh, and I got other news. I got a 16-35 I want to sell. Pristine condition.
Yeah. There, let's end it with that. That's the advice of the day. Make sure your caps are on your camera, please.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
If you do lose them, go out and buy them. Don's Photos got them. Just go and buy them. They're like $10.
Okay.
And music, which Nick is forgetting. Boop. It needs audio.
Oh, we got to turn it up.
Boop.
We're back.
Good show.
Right on.